Hello and welcome to episode 351 of the Filmmakers podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie films to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, director and producer. Today on the show we have a real treat for you. We have writer, director Dan Clark and actress and writer Kelly Wenham talking about their brand new film, A Kind of Kidnapping. This is a darkly funny heist movie gone wrong. I was lucky enough to attend the premiere of this movie and I thought it was fantastic. I was invited by Jojo Allet, who's one of the stars of Everyday Millionaire, which was one of the movies I produced, which is out now on Netflix and Amazon and Sky. Do go support if you can. And I thought, why would I not get Dan Clark and Kelly Wenham on the show to talk about how they made this indie film? Because they made it in 2 weeks. They made it on a micro budget and they've made it brilliantly. Not only that, but they also did a Q&A cinema tour around the UK. It is out now for you to watch. This is brilliant and I'd suggest any indie filmmakers out there, go watch this movie and learn, because this is how you do it. Myself, Dan and Kelly sat down and we talked about making this film. We talked about the Q&A tour. We talked about reviews, dealing with the bad ones. We also talk about their writing processes, how they do it, their notes together, because they are a couple in real life. So it really helps them develop their projects together, but also to get feedback on the stuff they're writing individually. We also talk about directing actors, the differences between actors, and also the differences between directing a short and a feature film. And we also talk about mental health, raising the finance, and asking for favours. That is all coming up for you on this week's episode of the Filmmakers podcast. Huge shout out to those of you who celebrated our 350th episode last week. We sat down with Stephen Follows on our Business of Film special episodes that come up pretty much every month, talking about the industry, and last week was no exception, talking all about the SAG strike and how it's going to affect you as filmmakers right now. If you've not listened to that, go listen to it. It's really insightful. You will learn loads, probably just as much as today's episode. But I want to give a shout out to my producing team of my directed feature, The Stranger in Our Bed. They have their latest film coming out very soon. This is called Boland's Shoes and it's going to be released in UK cinemas from the 15th of September. This is incredible. Boland's Shoes looks remarkable. It stars Mark Lewis-Jones, Leanne Best and Timothy Spall, as well as Terry Dwyer. Not only does she produce these movies, but she stars in them as well. She's incredible. Ian Poulsen Davies' debut feature film, and is all about the glam rock movement of the 70s. I'll put a link to the trailer in the show notes as well, but do check it out. They will be on the podcast very soon when that is being released. That's the team behind Stranger in Our Bed and their latest film, Boland's Shoes, Buffalo Dragon. Check them out. They are up and coming. Huge indie filmmakers on the scene. Next week for you, we've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, director Jeff Lowe and exec producer Ramsey McBean joining myself and Dom Lenoir talking all about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that me and Dom were lucky enough to go to a screening of very recently. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. Animation at its best and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at its best. Seth Rogen is behind this one. It's absolute blast. So we talked to those two filmmakers, so that is for you next week. But back to this week's show. A Kind of Kidnapping is a comedy crime drama. It is about a young broke couple who kidnap a sleazy politician who then decides he can spin the story to his own advantage. It's produced by Richard Wiley and cinematography by Ben Saffer. The film stars Patrick Baladi, who's very well known from The Office, who has recently been in Ted Lasso. It also stars Jack Parry-Jones, who has recently starred in Hijack, as well as Olivia Poulet, Layla Hoffman, Sherelle Armstrong, and our very own Joanna Allett, and of course, Kelly Wenham as Maggie. Kelly has starred in so many TV shows, from Cold Feet, Coronation Street, Where the Heart Is, Steel River Blues, Dead Set, Holby City, Waterloo Road, Merlin, as well as the feature films Double Date, Tales from the Lodge, Surge, which Anil Kara, the director of, has been on this podcast, so do seek that one out. And of course, A Kind of Kidnapping. And before Dan Clark directed A Kind of Kidnapping, he was starring in TV shows such as How Not to Live Your Life, which he also wrote, produced, and directed many episodes as well. He also directed the short film The Kidnapping of Richard Franco, which is based on the feature film they have made, A Kind of Kidnapping, which also starred Kelly. Let's get to it. Let's get to myself, Dan Clark, and Kelly Wenham talking all about making an indie film on a shoestring budget in 2 weeks and making a big splash in the cinemas and making a big success of it all. Hope you enjoy. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, we're good.
How's the tour been?
Yeah.
Really good. We finished now. It's still screening on some at some cinemas, but we're not doing Q&As anymore. But which in a way I'm happy about. Are you? Because it was starting to get a bit like, seeing the film again and again and again. At first was such a thrill because we loved seeing it in front of audiences, but then you start getting a bit like, oh, we've got to watch it again. Got to answer the same question.
Did you watch it every time?
Yeah. I think what it was to begin with, we were like, I wonder how it goes down in a different city and whether they laugh at the same things. It was it was sort of a study at first, and then I think it was just us sort of sitting in the back going, I love this bit. Do you remember when we did that? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, it was
and
a bit
sort of like...
But I think because also it was so, we finished editing the movie I finished post-production and everything in like March of 2022.
Oh.
And so it was a year and a bit since we've seen it, and I hadn't watched it once since I'd locked it. And so and also the reviews were coming in and they were so crazily like, people either absolutely loved it or people seemed to absolutely hate it. And so you kind of want to know what because they're just one person from a newspaper or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can't really gauge, even though we all imagined that the whole of The Guardian have all got together and collectively said, what do we think of this film? It's really just one person.
One person having a bad day.
With an agenda.
Yes.
And so I think we were like, we want to know what people think, what real cinema-going people think.
And And there was one particular review, which we won't mention, which had come out, and then we were like, we were on a bit of a downer, and then we thought, let's just sit in, and they just, I think it was Cardiff, and they absolutely loved it from the get-go and laughed all the way through, and we were like, no, it is good.
And you felt better. And you felt justified. You're like, no, we have made a great film.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
you, whoever
exactly.
shitty review you are.
Yeah.
Stick it up the arse. Because it's depressing. It can get really depressing, those review stuff. And we can look into it way too much. But like you say, it's just someone's view. It's someone's point of view. But when the audiences are loving it, and I loved it in the premiere, I thought this was a fantastic film. The audience loved it. Me and Nina were laughing our heads off watching it. It was a joy. Fantastic performances, very well made. I was like, this is brilliant. So any negative reviews, I'm just like, it's so hard though, isn't it? Because you're like, you can't wait for the reviews. You think everyone's going to love it, but isn't it odd?
Yeah.
It's also weird because I think with music, because there's such a clear genre sort of delineation, is that the right word for this? Like, as in, you would never send a classical critic a heavy metal record or a trance record or something, because you go, well, we know they're not going to like it or get it's just not for them, unless what you're trying to prove is that the thing you do crosses over or something.
Sure.
But in specifically comedy, but also in other films, it's like you don't know if you're giving it to the person who would go and see this in the first place, let alone, when they're reviewing it. So it's such a pot shot, especially when you're an unknown kind of entity. They don't know what they're getting into.
Yes.
I always remember when doing television, it was like, it was even more difficult because you don't get to see it with audiences.
Yes.
You can't. That's why I think we actually sat in quite a few, because it was like, I want to know where people are laughing and where they're shocked and where they're where you can feel the tension and stuff. You can't do that when you make a TV show and it just goes out on air, unless you break into people's homes secretly
and sneak in their gardens and go, they laugh or put it on Gogglebox, and then you could see the reactions live.
Oh,
no,
I wish.
You're absolutely right with that. Isn't it funny how we always know it's our own faults? Like, for instance, at any kind of screening or cast and crew screening, the makeup are watching how the makeup is on screen. The costume are looking at, that ruffle was out of place. Yeah. The sound are going, I could have got better sound. So the actors do the same. Directors, producers do exactly the same.
And also, obviously, on the shoot, every department really, I mean, in the negative sense of this, which fortunately wasn't the case with us, but like, I've heard people bitch about, that department think it's all about them, or that, everyone's because they're just focused on their department.
Of course.
So, people makeup want to come in for checks to make sure makeup is good, costume the same, and continuity. Now, because we were shooting this while the COVID rules were still in place, we had that thing where if you're beeped, you have to leave set immediately. Which was obviously...
Did you just hear that beep then?
Yeah, there was a beep in the background.
There was a beep in our flat.
What's that?
When he said...
We've got to go, sorry.
Oh my God, guys, take care. You look after yourselves now.
Yeah, this might be the last time you see me. So we had this... Because it was so low budget, we're talking micro budget.
We're talking... Can we...
Minuscule budget.
Minuscule.
Still not allowed to say, but with...
Yeah, because you're still selling the movie. I'm always like, look, if you're still selling the movie in certain territories, you shouldn't say what the budget is. Yeah, we know. And look, it's under a certain amount. It's micro budget. It's way under $1 million. It's micro budget movie. And
so we were in this situation where it was a 2-week shoot, and if we had to shut down because of COVID, we wouldn't have been able to restart, because we would have spent all the money pretty much. As you know, so much is spent at the top. And then even with like insurance and stuff, it just would have been too difficult to start up again on the size that we had. And so it really was like, if this production goes down because of a COVID case, this is it. We don't finish our movie.
Wow.
And every day there was that in the back of our mind. We've never really spoken about this, but that was always in the back of our minds. And then, and everyone's obviously wearing face masks, not the panda masks from the movie, but face masks, and that whole thing that added confusion and frustration to shooting in a hot, small house room. The house is big, but the room is small. And, the woman who was doing our script supervisor, she got pinged and left. She tested okay, so we could keep going and everything was fine, but she still had to, because of the rules, she wasn't allowed back on the set. So for 2/3 of the film, there's no script notes. There's no...
for your editor to help.
Well, the editor had a hard time, but at least that was not under the duress of shooting it within 12 hours and stuff. But it was more that the makeup and costume and like loads of things, we didn't have that reliability of going, hey, on that take we did last week, where was the cup, or where was, was she wearing the shirt? Was she not wearing the shirt? And we were all just totally doing it
ourselves.
We had to do it ourselves. We were totally on the fly. Sometimes me and Ben, the DOP, had to say to makeup and costume, you can't come on. You can't come on and do a check. We haven't got time. That's like 10 minutes that we just can't afford today.
Yeah, and of course that causes tension.
And that causes tension. They're not happy because they're not getting to do their job at their full. Yeah. And all this stuff in the moment. I am bringing, this is all relevant to what we were talking about, what feels like an hour ago, but everyone in that kind of, in the heat of the moment, feels like all these mistakes are happening. And then I put the film together, and there are so many continuity problems in that film, but nobody has noticed any of them. Nobody's noticed it. And I only noticed it because I sat in the edit and watched the film. And I didn't notice it at the beginning. I only noticed it after 7-8 weeks of editing. I started going, hang on, have you noticed that on that scene, there's that, but I'm not going to say it, point it out. But it kind of makes you realise that the way that we all feel about each department sometimes can be like, it's great that everyone cares passionately about their department, but we can blow it out of proportion sometimes.
Yes. So let's talk about why this story, why make this into a feature. I know you made a short of it first, or a version of this. Let's get into the nitty gritty of why you wanted to make a movie in the first place.
Well, I was starting to lose my passion for acting and performing, or maybe the industry was losing their passion for me acting, or I should say. No, I was just getting a bit fed up, and I'd always wanted to direct, but it was always like, oh, I'll do that when I'm older. And then one day I was like, shit, I'm older. I better do this now. And just came up with something to shoot in one location, which is the classic thing to do with films and shorts, and came up with this kidnapping scenario. And Kelly had always said we should work together, and I was, because for those that don't know, we are a couple. We are in fact married now.
Married couple.
And this was like 6 years ago, and I was like, oh, I don't know, is that a good idea? Like, this doesn't end well, does it? Look at Tom and Nicole. And
I love that you were like comparing us to Tom and Nicole.
Yeah, you should.
I mean, no, I love it.
I mean, they made 3 very successful movies. And you were like, let's try it, you know. So we did this short film, and actually it turned out that it was really beneficial being in a couple, because you have a shorthand and you don't have to over-explain, and you don't worry about, because with actors, especially when on a short film, you haven't got enough time to really build a relationship. Yeah. So you're still working out what they like, what kind of direction they like.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's finished, and you were like, oh, I was only just starting to work you out. But we really just clicked, didn't we?
Yeah. And also, we were, with the short, we were under a lot of pressure to get that one done, but it was just like, you know, when you've been in a couple a long time, you just know each other so well that just a look, you sort of like, oh right, okay, but you could be really sort of like, take that down, that way down. You could talk to me the way you wouldn't talk to anyone else.
I don't think I would talk to, although I spoke to Jack and Patrick like that on the feature. But,
do you know, a nice way to say it is a shorthand that we were, and I trusted you enough to be, you know, and it worked out.
Yeah, it really worked out. And so we'd done the short film, and it was a kidnapping scenario, but they hadn't kidnapped a politician.
Yes.
And then,
so just to jump on that, had you raised the money yourselves? Did you just put the money in yourselves and go, we're just going
to short?
I pretty much paid for it myself.
You paid for it, didn't you?
Learned the hard way of, like, I spent way more money than I actually needed to.
Right. Yes. In what way?
Just, I was too generous about what I offered people for the day rate, because we did it in.
Didn't offer me anything for my day rate.
Got fortune. Just didn't get it.
And so there was a few mistakes there, but like it was, and as you know, like filming is really difficult, but it's fun difficult. The hard bit is getting money for films. And there's nothing fun about, unless you're someone that gets off on like schmoozing and sort of hustling and stuff, which I don't, to be honest. That is the hard bit, really.
So you thought you'd put your own money in, get on with it, and I certainly did that with all my shorts at the beginning. It's like, put your own money, get on with it, get it made. Don't wait for anyone else.
If you can afford it, and you know, try and get as many favours as you can, because people do like doing shorts because they're such a small commitment. And if it's, you know, actors they still, even when they're successful, obviously if they're so busy, they can't fit these things in. But even if you think they're out of your league, they still respond to good parts. People will read a script. That's tricky, getting them to read it in the first place. But when they read it, if it's a good part and they go, oh, it's only a day, it's only 2 days. So that would be, they still have got that actor inside of them that still gets off on the idea of
because they love to act. And also if it's not like someone they've ever really played before, if it's stretching them.
Yes, and it's a chance to do it for actors. Kelly, I'm sure if things came your way as well, now someone going, hey, would be interested in the short, you'd take it seriously because it's, might be something different.
Absolutely.
Acting, meet people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like a nice person.
Yeah.
You could play someone
like a really
nice, because your character
calm
in this is
person.
calm. So you made the short.
Yeah.
What did you do with it at that point to even think about? Were you thinking about turning it into a feature, or how were you putting it out there in the world to say this is what I want to do?
I think we even spoke on set a couple of times about like, imagine if this was longer and we could do this with it. But we didn't, not seriously. It wasn't until it got into a bunch of festivals and...
Probably wasn't until I won Best Actress at the Bolton Film Festival did you take it seriously,
I
did
took
you?
it seriously.
Yeah.
I love you drop that in. That's brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'd never won anything before in my life.
No. And actually, this part has won you more awards than anything, isn't it? Weirdly.
You go the same character, similar character, because you've won the Manchester Film Festival, didn't you? Best Actress, is that right?
Which was also bonkers,
Yeah.
But so it got into quite a lot of festivals, and people, the most common feedback was, I wanted to see more, which is a really good thing to hear. But the danger is it because, less is more, and if we give them more, they'll be like, you've sort of outstayed your welcome, So, but we took the punt, and I started writing a feature film version, and at some point had the idea of making him a politician, because I am interested in politics, and I'm not like a, seasoned satirist or like massively into the minutiae of politics or like the civil servant end of politics, but I'm fascinated on the sort of larger, bigger headline type politics here and in America. And I just thought it'd be nice to have something a bit more to say than just this.
Yes.
Comedy.
Than just some random person I've kidnapped. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he was a has-been actor that, in the short film, but it just felt like, also, I love the idea of representing Kelly's character, Maggie, who's this kind of liberal left-wing out-of-work actress, and the Tory politician that they've kidnapped, and showing that actually they're kind of the same. They're two different sides of the same coin, which is they just are so hungry for success and power and fame, and it's not really it's not really how they get there. Like, she wants to do it through being an actress, and he wants to do it through being a politician, but it's the end goal they're after more than the sort of content,
Yes.
If you heard a weird sound, that was our dog in the background.
That wasn't us sort of making a weird snorting sound. We've got a French bulldog.
Who's, beautiful.
Who sighed like he was like, guys,
God,
not this again.
Guys. God. So sick of this.
How did you find writing it then? Is it his first screenplay that you'd written in terms of full length?
Full feature film? No, it was actually my third, but the first that got, actually made.
And what was that process like for you? What is your process of writing?
Well, this one I wrote differently to other things I write, because I do write quite a lot. I'm writing TV and stuff, and I've got much better at doing the work up front of like working out who the characters are and structure and beats and stuff. But this one, I kind of did it more like how I used to write, which was just start writing and see where it takes me. Maybe I have one or two ideas that I know I want to put in there somewhere. And the problem with that is you can knock out a script quite quick because you're just sort of like writing and going, but then you do all the work that I now do up front on the back end of it, which is going back into it and fixing it because it's all over the place. The structure doesn't work, and there's long bits that are meandering, and it's like, I saw an interview with Martin McDonough, and I couldn't believe that he writes his stuff without any prep.
That's madness,
that just blew my mind. I mean, I can see it in the Banshees of Inisherin.
It's kind of sprawling and goes.
Yeah, and it's more like his plays. But his other films feel like things that you would have structured and plotted up front. So I find that crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't do it that way. I have tried. And like I said, I've usually stopped at about page 70 and just gone, this is a mess. I haven't even got to the, middle act yet. I haven't got to the second act yet. I'm just sprawling.
I'm not even at the opening titles yet. And it's 70 pages. 70
pages in. So no, I don't do that now. That's why I like to write with other people, because that structure, I structure everything now into orders and make sure before we even put, words down, or some words, but properly, that I know the beginning, middle and end. So then you only get less problems in the middle. Yeah. How did you find it on your own then? Because once you've got that mess, let's say the vomit draft out, which is always so difficult to come back to. And that's where often I'll have gone, oh God, this is terrible. Let's leave this one for another day or another year, or never do it. How did you then approach reworking it or rewriting it at that point?
The hardest thing, and Kelly writes a bit too, so she can relate to this as well, but I think all three of us will agree, and anyone listening, the hardest thing is self-editing. And not just editing as in cutting things out, but like looking at your own work and going, what works, what doesn't?
What do I really need, and what can I kill?
What's it's
kill your babies.
It's so difficult. So you want to show it to friends that you trust who are also in the business. That sounds pretentious, but like who are producers or writers or whatever. And then but you're also scared of showing them something so early and raw. But that's what you kind of have to do, because Kelly's now been writing for about 5 years, not as full time as me, but she is someone I can show stuff to and go, look, perfect. I'm not asking you for full script notes and feedback, but just a general, like, is this, do you think this is, or just like, what do you think? And then I'll hear what she thinks and see if it's stuff that resonates with me. That's nice, because it means the script hasn't left the house yet.
Yes,
it's not,
that's perfect.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that with my missus. She's, just go, what are you giving me this for? So it's really nice that the two of you
it's a punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
What have I done wrong?
Yeah, what have I done to deserve this? I've got to wade through your crap. I've got enough crap. How do you find writing, Kelly? Do you like to plot everything out beforehand? What's your process?
Well, Dan sort of taught me over the past 5 years. I've been sort of doing a 5-year workshop. Because originally I had this idea that I kept talking about, and I just wasn't starting it, was I? And then you got so fed up of me talking about it that you just went, here's the first 3 pages. I've written it for you.
Brilliant.
And then as soon as it was in front of me, I went, oh, right. And then...
But also, you're not writing my idea.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm writing it. And I can write better than you. How dare you?
Definitely. There's a bit of that.
And then I was just away then. It was just like someone had opened the door, the floodgates, and then it just came out of me. And I wrote like my first pilot in like a day or something. It was like
brilliant.
Because it was just these 2 characters, and I just knew the characters so well, and it was mainly those 2 sort of talking. And then we ended up writing it together, and
that wasn't quite as easy as when we worked as director and actress straight away. That was like instantly like, this works, because... And
I had to really learn actually how to not take things personally, because I wasn't a writer. I presented Dan with the first draft, and I was like, oh, isn't it great? And he was like, yeah, I mean, there's some great bits, but and at first I was like, what? But
you were a little...
No, I think I was a bit like...
less polite than that.
Okay, but I was like, no, he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get what I'm trying to do here. And sort of ran with that for a few weeks, and then realised, oh no, I really have to... I'm right at the beginning. I don't know anything about writing. Yeah, I've read a load, like hundreds and hundreds of scripts being an actor. So I've got a bit of a head start. A bit of a head start, but like I really had to be teachable and just be like, right, okay, I'm just gonna learn. And that's what we did. And I would do a draft and he'd give me notes. I'd do another one. He'd give me more notes. And we just did that for months, didn't we?
It is And I know you have a lot of people who listen who are like trying to get into film and stuff, and it is something that I always feel like it's a strange. I mean, it's a bit like life. I think the younger, as in your career, you are, the more protective and sensitive you are to feedback, and the irony is that's when you need it the most. But I used to be like that. You know, someone give you you fuck off. You're old. You're stuck in it. You're playing by the rules. I'm trying to break the rules, man. You know, it's all that sort of thing. And then you realise maybe I should find out what the rules are first before I think I can break them and be a rebel. Because I didn't go to any kind of college for writing or anything. I just went out and started doing it, and made a lot of mistakes sometimes on TV or in front of audiences, like, you know, because I was learning as I went. But you also, as someone who is, say, in that instance, not anymore, but certainly that first script, I was sort of mentoring you. Yeah. You also don't want to rip out what makes that person unique or special or whatever.
Their style.
And it's such a fine line, because you do see stuff where you go, that just doesn't work. It just doesn't, you know, sometimes it's hard to even explain why it doesn't work because I'm not educated, but I just know from years of doing it, you know, sometimes I can articulate it. But then there are times where you're like, well, maybe I just don't get that, and that's okay. And actually Kelly should fight for that and say, no, this is something I really feel is funny or dramatic, you know, whatever the thing you're fighting for is.
And at those moments, that's when you know your heart's in it. Whenever you get a note about something, anything, even if you finished it or you're doing test screenings, someone says, you should take that out. Instantly you go, yes or no. You feel it straight away, whether it's a script or it's an end product. Your body goes, no, I'm keeping that in because I know why it works. That's good, because now you're even more passionate about that specific moment in the script or in the end product. And I think that's really important to get those notes back and learn from it. Otherwise we'd just be listening to everyone's opinion and changing it every single time.
And then it's like what's that saying? Too many chefs spoil the broth. You've got too many people sort of dragging it in too many directions, and it's just getting watered down. But no, I obviously trust Dan and have read his scripts, but you know, stuff you'd written when we first met years ago, and I remember reading your work, just going, "This is really good. You're a really good writer."
Thank you.
And
finally,
I was so impressed when I read some of your work. Not that I didn't expect you to, but I was like, wow. So it was easier to take notes from him because I was just like, I really respected his writing.
But we did have a full blown row the first time I gave her some quite sensitive feedback on that first script. And I think it's because writing is so difficult and so lonely that when you've been through all that, what you want to hear when someone reads your script, just it's like having gone to the gym or something, you just want someone to go, well done. That was brilliant. That's
like
brilliant.
when you've had a haircut, you want someone to go, it looks nice, even if it doesn't. You just want them to say it. Just say it. And you're exactly right there. When you've sent a script, and actually it's a really good note for anyone listening, when they do get sent scripts, start with something positive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just always, well done.
Always.
Now I'm going to dive in. Always. What about you for directing then, Dan? Because obviously you'd had directed How Not to Live Your Life. You'd had been involved in that process, from writing it, producing it, starring in it, and you had directed episodes. And now you're coming to direct a short and then to a feature. What's the difference for you? What have you learnt during that time?
I think with the feature it's just having the vision, the bigger vision. You know, in television and in short films, I mean, short films, you still need to have a vision, obviously, but it's easier to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you can be a bit more like, well, this is what we're doing today or over the next couple of days. But with a feature film, the journey's so much longer. The literally page count and, you know, running time of the movie is so much bigger that keeping an eye on the bigger picture is harder. It's easy to get lost as to why what you're shooting this day is so important for something you either shot weeks ago, not in our case because it was a 2-week shoot, but on any proper film, it would be like, how do you keep the tone and the actor's motivation and arc and the story and everything, keeping that vision of knowing that, because we shoot out of sequence all films most of the time. That's, I think, the biggest thing that you don't learn from, and also physical stamina apart from anything else. And because we were talking about this with scripts and writing and getting notes and how to know whether someone's just instinctively got it right or you're trying to teach them to fit in a traditional system. I had a similar thing on this because there were times where I had a gut feeling about the way to do a scene, and then someone would suggest, like maybe my DOP, I'll use him as an example because he was brilliant on this, like not just as a DOP. He made it look amazing, made it look way more expensive than it is, but also just his attitude and his work ethic and everything. He was so good.
So good.
And so I really developed a trust and respect for him quite early on. So then sometimes he would suggest the opposite or something quite different to what I was saying.
Right.
And the hardest thing in the world is when someone you respect is telling you to do it differently, but your gut's going, I don't know, I think it should. Because then your head's starting to go, maybe I'm not right about this. Because he's good at what he does. And maybe he knows what. It's easy when someone you don't respect that much goes this. You're going, oh, fuck off. You don't know what you're talking about. But when someone you do look up to, and you're under the time pressure of shooting a film in 12 days, originally it did go over, but you're like, oh, God, maybe he's right. And looking back when I was in the edit, every time I didn't listen to my gut, I regretted it. Even if going with my gut might have been wrong, it still I would have been able to take the mistake easier than there were one or two times where someone else suggested something and I went with them and I look at that scene and go, God, why didn't I? And that's harder because you blame someone else, and blaming someone else brings up, like, it festers.
Yes, it festers. It's better to die on your own sword, isn't it? And I think that's what directing is. So many people will come up with opinions if you allow them to on a film set. And it's that moment of saying, it's okay, I've got this. It's all right, I want to go here. And sometimes it's like you say, you might be wrong, but it's important that it's yours. Yeah. And like I say, I love other people's opinions. I love, like, someone come in DP. I love it when they say, this would be nice.
Yeah, it's great.
I will then process it and think about it. But yeah, it's very hard when they're saying, no, you're wrong. That's like, whoa, I've thought about this a long time. I've written this. I kind of know.
Sort of been thinking about this for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Which in our case, it took us 5 years to make this film.
But, I think it was exacerbated by the fact that we were shooting it under such intense time constraints. So I didn't have the time to discuss things quite often.
Well, let's dive into that then, because you say you shot this movie for 12 days, 2 weeks, 12 days. Time frame to shoot any kind of movie, feature film, is really, really tough. A movie like this with so much scope, movement, different locations, blood, beatings, there's a lot going on, performances, that really take it out of you. There's a lot here, which means you might get 1 or 2 takes if you're lucky, 3 maybe. So I'm quite amazed, when I heard that after the premiere, I would not have believed it. I'd have thought this was a 4-week shoot and you had way more money than you had, which says a lot. Yeah. It's really huge kudos to all of you who made this movie. It really is.
I think that's something we're all incredibly proud of. And because you don't talk about that
especially reviewers don't know.
They don't care as well. That's the other thing.
They're judging it like they would, Barbie, say. And, they've had... It's just, you can't compare it to what we did with that money on that time.
I mean, I don't mind so much about that because ultimately it's, at the end of the day, does the story work? It doesn't matter how you got there. Does the story work? First of all, I should say that we ended up shooting a couple more days, and it was meant to be 12 days. But I think it is physically impossible to make a feature film in 12 days and make it look even semi-good. If we had not had lights, if we'd gone sort of Lars von Trier's style and just had only natural lighting, and And
very minimal crew, like zero crew. You were
just
holding
like
the camera. You might get away with it.
You could do it. You could do it. And maybe there's an argument that we should have done it that way. I don't know. But me and Ben definitely wanted it to look a certain way, and that involves.
But also, as a director, you are very visual. Like, I can't imagine you making a point and shoot film. You're always looking at the aesthetics of a shot when we watch movies, and that's really important to you.
Yeah, it is. But you have to drop that a little bit under these. But yeah, we did want it to not just look like a, film shot on a phone or something, which you could.
Yes. You set out with you sort of have your shot list of, we'll get all these amazing wraparound shots. And your bar starts really high. Yeah. And then you come to it and you go, we've got 5 minutes. Okay, cool. This is a two-shot. This is literally one shot. We're just going to go, literally camera's going to whip between the two of you. Go, get it, go. And it's really weird. You'd never kind of do that on a short, or if you do, it's, you're really disappointed. But on a feature, when you actually look at the whole picture, you've still got your fingerprints over everything. You just, your bar was really high and you end up, you're literally limboing under something you can't limbo under to get anything on screen.
It is insane. And that was, honestly, if I hadn't have had Ben, there were loads of people in the crew who did such amazing jobs, but if it wasn't for Ben, the DOP, and the 3 actors and their particular working style, we wouldn't have got that film made, because these 3 was not only off book, knew their lines, which is obviously the sort of workman compliment, but also knowing their characters as well as they did from literally day one, from having done the thought and the prep, because there was no rehearsal either, which we should have done on a film like that, but it was just too difficult with everything going on with the COVID stuff and the budget constraints. So they just, from day one, it was like, oh, these 3 know what they're doing, and we would never have got through it if it wasn't for those components. And you're right, there were some scenes where they only had one. There was one scene where they only had one take, which is insane. And there were a lot of scenes where they would only get like 1 or maybe 2 full takes, and then would just pick up sections of the scene. Or lines even.
Yeah, you just shout
which
lines.
I'd kind of learnt from doing television, especially where you want to do alt comedy lines, like, right, we got that, let's do a slightly different version of that line. We weren't necessarily doing that loads, but we were just that ethos of like, we haven't got time for you to sort of go from, because as you've seen the film, there are a lot of talky scenes. There's a lot of scenes where it's like a 5-page dialogue scene between 2 or 3 people, and that would just take ages. So it's like, look, I know I've got everything. Just give me that line and that one later, and we'll move on, sort of thing.
Well, which is great, because you were thinking about the edit. You're going, well, I've got that performance that I need. I've got that shot I need. Yeah. But that bit I could probably pick up because I can cut to him at that point. And that was your wonderful brain thinking about it, which is is incredible, really.
I think Jack and Kelly were less comfortable at the beginning. Like, that we would finish a scene and there'd be the more like, oh, I don't know if I felt it or I got it, because you are much more both feeling type of actors. Like, you really like to feel it and like end a scene and feel like you nailed it from beginning to end. Whereas Patrick's such a, like, he's been doing TV for so many years. I think he was more okay with like, okay, I trust the director that he feels like he's got all the different bits. Yes. But like halfway through, I mean, Jack has said this in a few Q&As, didn't he? Yeah. That he really struggled with it at the very beginning. Yeah. You were a bit better because you'd worked with me before and felt like maybe you knew the madness was going to work. But
and also the trust thing there as well. You trust, I mean, Kelly, you would have been like, I totally trust Dan will tell me if I haven't got the performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would have helped you, right? Whereas Jack, Parry Jones and Patrick Baladi, the 2 we're talking about here, Jack, I imagine, was probably a little bit more wary because he was like, well, we've not worked together, so I'm not sure if I'm getting the performance yet, right? I imagine.
Yeah. It's a big trust. It really is.
Yeah. Huge trust, because it's their face on, I always say this about actors, it's really difficult because it's their face on camera at the end of the day, and that's why they worry about it. Yeah.
And
very tricky.
I just remembered there was one scene where we did, you and I both feel like you didn't. Do you remember? It's the very last line of the entire film. and we ran out of time.
God.
So just to give you
that was devastating.
a little bit of more, just to ramp up the stress of the shoot, we also found out that we couldn't run over at all in the shoot.
Oh,
like not even grace, what they call grace, which is where the crew will just give you 10 minutes because we didn't have the money for overtime at all. We just couldn't do it. And so after like the second or third day where we had run over a few minutes or something, a couple of members of the crew who maybe weren't going to get as much out of doing a film like this because it wasn't like a huge step up as a head of department or something, were like, I'm not going to, they said this with the most respect I guess they could, which was, you can't just take the piss out of us, sort of thing. Like, we're already working for peanuts here. Like, really, everyone was working way under their normal fees, like below half, I think. So the producer, who was very considerate about keeping everyone happy, said, you can't run over anymore, not at all. So for the rest of the shoot, which was probably another 7 or 8 days, I would be looking in the last 3 minutes of the day at the time in the monitor going, oh my God, if we don't get... And some scenes we wouldn't be able to complete the next day. We just wouldn't have fit it in. So there was the last scene of the whole film. Kelly has to deliver this line and we ran out of time. And we just had to use what we had.
It was almost like a non-take. It was like, oh, but I'm going to get to do that again, aren't I?
Yeah, it was almost like that was her warming up take.
Yeah. and then everyone just going, right, that's it, we're done.
Oh no.
And
but weirdly,
and it's the final line of the movie, and it's so important for the character.
But you then spent months, almost a year, going, let's, I'm sure the film's great, but we fucked up the end. Like, you were convinced you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And actually, it works.
Didn't we even say? I think you were close to tears, going like, "Can we just please not? Can we not just do one more?" And
yeah, we just couldn't.
So someone was like, "No, that's it," and everyone was just sort of leaving and going home, and we were just looking at each other, just like going, "I can't believe that."
Yeah, that's
it's devastating, isn't it? That feeling. How did you deal with that mental? Because everyone, it's good we're talking about this these days, the mental health side of it. And like you say, you were filming in COVID where it wasn't as, like, now it's great. You're fully allowed to talk about it and it's totally fine. But maybe during that time it was a little less. Certainly before that, you just didn't talk about it at all. But how were you coping with that? Because the pressure generally is really difficult when you're making an indie film anyway. Yeah. Shooting in 12 days, really difficult, getting 1 or 2 takes. How were you putting it in your mind? Because you were thinking, I'm making this is it, the dream. I wanted to make a feature. You're playing a lead in a feature. How did you cope with that?
Well, I'll speak for me. I mean, I found shooting that film sort of just such, even with all the pressure, even with everything that we were up against, it was just, I loved it so much. Every second of it, even though I was exhausted every night. And
as stressful as it might have done.
But I remember us going back to the hotel room every night, just exhausted. But
sort of like we'd just come from Vietnam or something, just staring into the middle distance.
But we were just sort of like smiling, going, "I can't believe we're making the film. I can't believe we're making the film." Do you remember?
Because as you know, Giles, getting your film. I don't know how long you had 3 Day Millionaire in as a script knocking around, but like I think I'd written A Kind of Kidnapping like 5 years before we made it, and I've had other scripts that have been around, and a couple of times where it almost got made and then fell apart, and it's the thing about film that I hate compared to television, which is in TV you get a green light and that's it, it's happening, whereas in film you could be the day before filming. It's never happened to me, but I've heard it happen to a lot of things where the finance falls through at the last minute. And everyone's already done pre-production and the actors have learnt their lines. And so the fact that we were actually shooting it, that we were like 3-4 days into it, as insanely difficult as it was, we were just buzzing.
Yeah,
like,
we were buzzing, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
it's that it's good pain. like what you get at a massage.
Yeah.
One of those really heavy elbows in massage.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this really hurts. You're pulling all your hairs on your legs. Stop it.
It hurts, but it's good at the same time.
I know it's good for me in some way.
Yeah.
Talking about that, getting it made, talk us through that process of, you said that it nearly got made and didn't, and then how it actually did happen. Because that's fascinating. Everyone wants to know, how did you actually go from, I have a script, I want to direct it, to it being made?
Yeah.
That was probably more challenging than the film.
Yeah.
Actually, but the mental journey of it.
And keeping the faith.
But also we were dealing with a certain person
promising and never delivering.
And that went on for years. And that drove me particularly insane.
And actually had a bit of a stress on our relationship as well.
It had,
because I kept going, no, let's just hear them out. And you were like, no, it's just.
It went on for so long, and it was almost like an abusive relationship.
It was a bit.
It was like you every time you kind of want to break away and go, right, okay, this is not good for us. This is not happening. Let's cut this and let's go elsewhere. They would sort of dangle the carrot of hope and then go, oh no, I do believe in your film and we're going to make it. And then you're reeled back in. Yeah. And it's also like we were sort of like, well, it's going to happen. And so, you spend your life just kind of waiting, going, well, we're going to make this film and it's going to happen. And that was going on for 5 years. So mentally, that was really stressful.
Yeah. And I do have, I feel like, unfortunately, in this particular industry, there is a lot of that going on. And I'm not undermining what, the term abusive relationship, obviously what that really means. But there are a lot of people that know that there are people who are desperate and they treat them very badly, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, because people are so desperate to get a foot in the door, or their film financed, or the part that could change everything for their acting career, whatever. And people take advantage of that. And, I don't want to get too heavy, but I think that's a big part of like what happened, the whole Me Too thing that happened was people are willing to do things that are probably against their moral compass sometimes, just to, because, there's such a desperation. And we put up with a certain someone
for a long time.
But then there was another producer involved.
But what was weird about it was, I think we both got to the point where we were like, right, we're going to let this person go because we know that we've got something and we're worth more than this. We had to get to that point where we're like, we're actually, we've got something here. And then as soon as we made that decision and cut that person out, right? Yep. And I truly, I don't know about you, but I truly let go. I reached a point where I was like, you know what? It was a dream, but it's never going to happen. We've got to move on, and I'm all right with it. I'm at peace with it. And then weirdly, the money came. It was like this weird universal thing. It just showed up in the weirdest way.
Yep.
Do you remember?
I was the
by the way, through a different channel as well. Yeah. When we're still working with the abuser.
Yes, that person, by the way.
That's our producer, who's called. No.
Yeah, exactly. That's how to do it, kids.
Yeah. No, but there was also another producer who wasn't an abuser, but who would only do it through the sort of slightly more traditional path of getting a big name attached. So there was a short window where it wasn't the cast we ended up with in the film, because they were like, no, you have to have names so that we can get X amount of money. And we kind of like, with a heavy heart, went, all right, let's go that route. And then it was like, the film business has changed so much that the people who, and I hate this phrase, but in film, they say whether an actor has value, and that means financial, as in they can get the budget for the film based on their profile. And I always hate it when they go, well, they don't have enough value, and because it just sounds so disrespectful. But the world had changed so much in like 5-6 years that actors that you would have thought would guarantee you a budget suddenly couldn't anymore. And then the pandemic happened, And it went even further downwards in terms of like, just other than Tom Cruise, no one seems to get you a budget for anything anymore.
No one does.
No one. So the producer, Richard, who pretty much saved our skin and we wouldn't have this film without him, said, look, I can do this for you for a tiny budget, but are you willing to do it this way? It means doing it in 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks or 5 weeks. It means you don't get big name actors. It means we may not get a distributor at the end of it. It's like you may not get it to look as good as you want, or you can carry on waiting forever to try and get the bigger budget. And we just like, do you know what?
Let's do it.
Let's just do it. I'm pleased we did it that way, because there was less to lose in terms of like, if for some reason we did fuck up the film.
Also, you didn't have a massive executive producer breathing down your neck, giving you creative notes. You were able to just be free with that side of things.
But also, we got the cast we wanted, and we went back to Patrick, who was in the short, and we found Jack. And if I'm lucky enough to direct again, and it was bigger names, I don't know if I'll ever have had that experience of having a cast and ensemble who are so like egoless that no one was the main star, no one was higher billing, that kind of thing. They all just chipped in like a sort of theatre production, and it was the most pure kind of way of directing actors. And I don't know that even when you go up to the next size budget, you'll probably have an actor who knows that maybe they're the slightly bigger star. And it changes that power dynamic as much as you don't want it to. So for me, directing my first feature, it actually, I think, turned out the best way it could have done.
With meeting Richard then, how did that come about? Why, what was that and him? Obviously, he produced Muscle, but what was it about him that said, yeah, I'm going to make this film and cool, I'll put some money in?
Yeah, I'd met Richard on a film called Tales from the Lodge, which cool. Had Johnny Vegas in it, Mackenzie Crook, Laura Fraser. It was a great cast. We all had a really good time. And he was exec producer on that.
I think he co-produced.
Did he
with Ed?
Yeah, with Ed.
Yeah.
And so I met him on that, and then kept in touch and sent him Dan's script.
Nice, well done.
Yeah.
So like everything in my life, it's all down to Kelly. And we'd actually spoken to him a while before, and he showed interest in the script, but that was when we were with The Abuser.
Yeah.
And
and we still thought we were in love with The Abuser at that point. We were still.
And so then when we walked away from that, and we'd put the feelers out that we were looking for someone, then Richard sort of stepped up. I think, I don't want to go too much into how he got the money, but because it was such a small amount of money, he basically, he had the ability to scrape together a bit of cash. I asked someone I knew for a tiny bit just to top it up a little bit. And it was like the most pure independent film you could, like, it was literally a couple of people's money and that was it.
Yeah. And also you put your, wage fee back into it. So did I. So it was kind of like, we literally put everything we had into it.
Yeah.
But it shows. That's what's interesting, I think, as well, is there's so much love and heart in this film. Mm-hmm. There really is. And that's because you're going, I'm putting, just here it is. Here's me. Here's everything. I'm giving everything, my time, my energy, my money. And you've been working on this for years and years, like say 5 years before that, the script. And then it was a year ago when you'd finished. So it's still that whole process of editing, post-production. And then you're doing the whole tour now. It's still your time, effort.
We were lucky to get people that brought, like Rachel, the editor, was so good, but also Darren Berry, who did the music, the score. Yeah. You can't do this if you don't have people that really have got something to prove and aren't thinking about just the money, that they're doing it because they love it and they want to show what they're capable of. Yeah. And then, for someone like me, you get to you benefit from their incredible talent. That's
Yes.
So it's there is an element of luck with all these things, even though I would never say we were lucky because everything felt so hard and that we worked so hard.
Yeah.
And it was picked up by Bulldog as well
Yeah.
for distribution.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We love the guys there, you know, done a great job.
It's interesting because the few people that have worked with them all have such nice things to say about them, because I think, you know, they do their thing very well, which is taking these very small films and just knowing how to give them some kind of daylight, you know, in such a competitive marketplace. And that's been what's good about it. It's sort of like proof that you made the film and you're not always having to go, so where can I see it? It's like, you know, there's just Google it and you'll find it. You know, it wasn't like we thought it was going to suddenly be a massive box office hit or anything.
No, but it was also about sort of showing people
what we're
especially
capable
what
of.
you were capable of, and me.
Yeah.
And just having the opportunity to do that. And
the fun of it as well.
Yeah. And we just keep kind of walking our dog going, we just want to make another film.
Yeah,
how can we make another film? Yeah, we just want to do it again.
Yeah, which is wonderful.
So we're back in the abusive relationship.
Yes, finding another abuser to torture you through the next film.
5 years.
Yeah, next 5 years. A little bit of advice then for someone who's about to go make their first feature film, about to do what you've done, raise any kind of money they can and go out and shoot it for any amount of time they can. Kelly, start with you from your side. What have you learned? What will our listeners learn? Could they
find a really supportive wife?
Good
No, I mean, I think,
good
you
one.
know, it is Dan's film and it's his, you know, baby. So
yeah, but you sort of were in many, like in the traditional sort of studio or production company system. Kelly was like a sort of development producer in the sense that she did keep me believe. She kept saying, don't give up, and, you know, passing it to people that she'd worked with, hence getting Richard and stuff. So she was way more instrumental than being a hired actress.
Sounds like a producer to me. Yeah, for sure.
It's that sort of thing. And for me, my advice is just like two things. One is like, obviously, keep the faith and try not to let rejections or hurdles completely stop you from carrying on. So, like, you know, obviously have the faith, but be realistic. The other thing is keep writing other stuff. Don't just sit around waiting for your one thing to be made, because apart from anything else, it will drive you insane. So start putting your energy into another script or go and shoot a short film or something, because and Kelly kind of alluded to this in the abusive relationship thing. When you do just sit waiting for that one call or something, it's really not healthy, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because by doing other things, you're already sort of empowering yourself into believing that you could do other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You've not got your eggs in one toxic basket, so to speak. You have to keep writing other things, and
you can always go back to it and tinker with it and stuff, but it's I think it can get a bit too detrimental to your own well-being if all you're doing is every day going, when's this going to happen, sort of thing.
Yep. And that's how I started. That was a problem for me for years. Now I never do that. I always have more than one project, just because it hurts too much if that one falls down and you've got nothing else. You haven't even developed it. So it's great advice. Yeah. Look, this has been so fun.
Yeah, really, it's been a lot of fun.
Great to chat to you both. A Kind of Kidnapping is out now. Go watch it. It's on your streaming platforms. The links will be in the show notes, I imagine. But as Dan says, Google it. You will find it. And do support indie films. Do go watch this. You've listened to the guys about how they made it, so go watch it. It's fantastic anyway. So go out there. You can go make your films. You can make it happen. Do believe in yourselves. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it's your duty to send the elevator back down. Dan Clark, thank you so much.
Thank you, Giles, for having us.
Kelly Wenham,
thank you so much.
It's been great.
Absolute pleasure. Take care, everyone. We will see you next Tuesday, as always. Bye for now.